Love him or loathe him, judged on trophies and results, Jose Mourinho is not just one of the greatest managers of the modern era, but one of the greatest of all time. A Champions League winner at Porto and Inter Milan, Jose has won 8 league titles in 4 different countries, justifying the nickname that he gave himself in his first press conference as Chelsea boss back in 2004. In recent years though, things had started to turn increasingly stale for the special one. He hasn't won a top-flight league title in over half a decade, leading some to question whether his methods had become outdated, and whether football had moved on. Now he is back in London though, and seemingly back in business, hoping to guide a Tottenham team, which has developed a bit of a habit of winning recently, into a Premier League title race. At the end of last month, I made a video looking at the 7 best signings Jurgen Klopp has ever made, and boy, were there some impressive pieces of business in there. In truth, I partly made that video out of an obligation from my boss to give a shout out to our sister Liverpool channel, Rousing the Cop, which I've just helped to shout out again, but it ended up doing really rather well. Consequently, I thought I'd follow it up with a video looking at some of Mourinho's best ever signings, although I have nothing to promote today, so you can just subscribe to HITC Sevens and turn on notifications if you're the giving type. 'Tis the season for giving and all. If today's video does well, we could make this a bit of a series. Maybe Pep could be next, or Ancelotti, maybe even Zidane. The opportunities are endless. Here are Jose Mourinho's 7 best signings of all time. Benny McCarthy. I shall remind you all, seeing as though I forgot to in my introduction, that these are the best signings, not the best players, signed by Jose Mourinho, and that is an important distinction. Andrei Shevchenko was a wonderful footballer, far more talented than Benny McCarthy, but he wasn't a great signing for Jose Mourinho. Since he cost an absolute fortune, he did very little at Stamford Bridge, whilst on an enormous salary, and he departed for an Australian-style fee. Benny McCarthy, on the other hand, was signed by Mourinho for just £3.15 million. He scored 25 goals en route to a historic treble, which included the Champions League in a single season, and he was sold to Blackburn Rovers for a small profit. Those are McCarthy's key credentials, and the reason why his signing deservedly gets us started in this 7. It does have to be said that McCarthy was already at Porto before Mourinho was appointed as first-team boss, on loan from Celta Vigo, and he would have been mad not to sign him off the back of his goal-scoring record whilst on loan at the club. Nonetheless, the fact that Mourinho didn't unearth McCarthy is irrelevant to how good of a signing he was, and the Bafana legend averaged roughly a goal every other game during his time in Portugal. Ricardo Carvalho. Ricardo Carvalho played under Jose Mourinho at 3 different clubs, and Mourinho signed Carvalho at 2 of them, namely Chelsea and Real Madrid, since Carvalho came through the youth ranks at Porto. You will be unsurprised to learn that Carvalho's inclusion in 6th place in this video is in regards to his arrival at Stamford Bridge, rather than his move to the Bernabeu, the latter of which started well but saw the Portuguese international effectively frozen out following his debut campaign. Carvalho is one of the best centre-backs that we have seen in the top flight of English football during the Premier League era, and defensively at least, his partnership with John Terry is probably the best in English football during my lifetime, narrowly ahead of Ferdinand and Vidic. In the 2004-05 season, the duo were at the heart of a Chelsea defence that only conceded 15 goals across an entire Premier League campaign. So perhaps it's little wonder that Mourinho named them both in his all-time 11 back in March, ahead of the likes of Sergio Ramos, Lucio and Phil Jones. Carvalho wasn't cheap. He cost Chelsea €30 million, equivalent to £20 million at the time, or £27.36 million now, due to the wretched devaluation of the pound. Although, that's another video for another time, and most likely another channel. He more than justified that fee over the next 6 seasons though, enough to earn him a spot in this 7, in my humble opinion. Wesley Schneider. You could write an entire dissertation about Real Madrid's 2009 transfer window, and the incredible talent that both arrived and departed that season. Their arrivals included Cristiano Ronaldo, Kaká, Karim Benzema, and Xabi Alonso among others. Meanwhile, Ian Robin, Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, Dani Parejo, Ruud van Nistelrooy and Fabio Cannavaro all headed in the opposite direction. Another departure from the Bernabeu that summer was Wesley Schneider, signed by Los Blancos for €27 million, but sold for just €15 million once they had their shiny new playthings. Schneider's new suitors were Inter Milan, under the guidance of Jose Mourinho, as you probably guessed, otherwise he'd be a pretty weird inclusion in this 7. Schneider would make Real rue the day that they chose to sell him, putting in a masterful debut campaign at the San Siro. The Dutchman was a tour de force in midfield for Mourinho's side, routinely taking games by the scruff of the neck, wreaking havoc, and creating chances aplenty for the likes of Samuel Eto'o and Diego Milito ahead of him. At the end of the season, Schneider made the FIFA Pro World 11, but some felt he deserved to go one better and win the Ballon d'Or. In total, Schneider spent 3 and a bit seasons in Serie A, with injuries beginning to bite during the Dutchman's third season. Whilst that may have brought his brilliance in Italy to an end prematurely, what Schneider achieved at his best still makes him more than worthy as an inclusion. Luka Modric. Whilst Wesley Schneider's first season under Jose Mourinho was phenomenal, but his inter-career would peter out in just a couple of years, Luka Modric's signing experienced roughly the opposite fate. I always felt like Modric was a snip at just £30 million from Tottenham Hotspur, given the fact that he had been outstanding at Spurs, and the North Londoners had turned down a £40 million bid from Chelsea the previous summer. However, in his first season in Madrid, Modric struggled to get going. Xabi Alonso and Sami Khedira formed the base of Jose Mourinho's midfield, whilst Mesut Ozil pulled the strings fabulously as a number 10. It left the Croatian either pushed out wide or only able to make cameo appearances, and Spanish newspaper Marca named him as La Liga's worst signing of 2012. In hindsight, it's a decision which appears to be about as wise as the one made by Prince Andrew to do an interview with Emily Maitlis on Newsnight. Modric quickly went from being a bit part player in the Real Madrid midfield to its cornerstone, and one of the best midfielders on the planet. He transitioned beautifully from being a number 10 to a number 8 and, albeit rather generously, even managed to end the Messi-Ronaldo stronghold over the Ballon d'Or in 2018. So whilst Modric only proved to be such an inspired signing by Jose Mourinho after the Tottenham boss left the club, he's still one of the best signings he's ever made. Ashley Cole. Perhaps the biggest bona fide bargain of Jose Mourinho's managerial career, even ahead of Benny McCarthy, Ashley Cole was one hell of a signing by the Blues boss. At the time of his arrival, Cole was already the best left-back in England, and quite possibly the best in the world. Certainly, he spent the majority of the next 8 years at Stamford Bridge as the best left-back on the planet, in my opinion at least, and the fact that he never made the FIFA Pro World 11 is quite frankly laughable. In the modern era, you'd be lucky to sign Cole for £75 million. Back in 2006, Chelsea managed to sign Ashley Cole for just £5 million, plus the services of William Gallas. It was a transfer saga that dragged on for around 12 months, with Chelsea and Cole found to have illegally entered talks without Arsenal's permission. Chelsea had offered Arsenal £16 million, but the club demanded £25 million. In the end, he ended up costing Chelsea a fraction of that amount, with Gallas acting as a makeweight. Gallas was a very talented centre-back, but Chelsea were already well equipped in that position, and Gallas went on to fall out with everyone at Arsenal, whilst Cole was absolutely sublime at Stamford Bridge. He won 9 trophies in 8 seasons at Chelsea before departing for Roma, where he was fairly terrible in 2014. For my money, the signing of Cole by Chelsea in 2006 for Gallas plus £5 million is among the finest transfers of the Premier League era, and the third finest of Jose Mourinho's illustrious managerial career. Didier Drogba. There will be outrage in the comments among Chelsea fans that Didier Drogba isn't in top spot. Of that, I have no doubt, but I've always called things as I see them on this channel rather than taking the easy or popular decisions. Nonetheless, I probably have some explaining to do. From the perspective of Jose Mourinho, I think Didier Drogba is probably his best and most important signing, in terms of his own career accomplishments, and they were a pretty iconic duo. However, from a neutral standpoint, that is to say, objectively, what are the best signings Jose Mourinho has ever made, I think there's one which trumps Drogba, and that is how I've determined all of this video and all of those like it. Either way, the key fact is that Didier Drogba was an absolutely fantastic signing by Jose Mourinho during his first summer in charge at Stamford Bridge. Drogba wasn't quite a full-blown late bloomer, but he was almost 24 when he first played top-flight football, which is a lot later than most who go on to have a career like he did. He joined Marseille for £3.3 million in 2003, but within 12 months, Chelsea had come in with a bid of £24 million. It was a huge amount of money at the time, and Chelsea weren't without their sceptics. Drogba went on to become a linchpin in Jose Mourinho's side though, leading the line with first-class leadership skills, intelligence, and athleticism. He wasn't always the most prolific, but he almost always scored when it mattered most, and he went on to become one of Chelsea's greatest players of all time. Samuel Eto'o. The signing of Samuel Eto'o is, objectively I believe, the best signing ever made on Jose Mourinho's watch. Just in case there is any doubt, I'm referring to when Mourinho signed him at Inter Milan and he was immense, rather than when he signed him on a free at Chelsea and was caught out making a joke about his age. Maybe I'm wrong, but I sometimes feel as though Samuel Eto'o perhaps doesn't get all of the plaudits that he deserves, since there's no doubt in my mind that he is one of the best centre-forwards in world football over the last 25 years. Quick, cunning, and lethal in front of goal, Eto'o could beat a man, pick a pass, and boy did he know how to find the back of the net. Prior to joining Inter Milan, Eto'o had scored 130 goals in 199 games for Barcelona, including 36 in 52 the previous season. He was, without a doubt, one of the best strikers on earth, but he never enjoyed a good relationship with Pep Guardiola in Catalonia. That, twinned with the fact that Barcelona were very keen on Inter Milan's Swedish marksman Zlatan Ibrahimovic, resulted in a swap deal which saw Barca part with Eto'o plus €46 million in order to bring Zlatan to the Camp Nou. As I've said in the past on this channel, given Eto'o's value at the time, the transfer effectively made Ibrahimovic the most expensive footballer of all time in 2009, yet he only spent a single season in Catalonia. Eto'o, meanwhile, won the treble at Inter Milan, helping to dump his former club out of the Champions League in his debut campaign under Mourinho. That accomplishment made Eto'o the first, and I believe still the only player, to have won back-to-back continental trebles in Europe with two different clubs. Eto'o scored 37 goals in his second season at the San Siro before departing for Russian outfit Anzhi Makachkala for around £25 million. Whichever way you spin it, the finances, the talent, the achievement, just an utterly magnificent piece of business, and a worthy winner, even though I'm sure many of you would still go with Drogba. Honourable mentions go to the likes of Diego Milito, Diego Costa, Cesc Fabregas, Paulo Ferreira, Sami Khedira, Michael Ballack, and if it weren't for his buyback clause with Real Madrid, I'd be inclined to include Sergio Reguilon. So that is it for today's video, but thank you all as ever for watching. Give us a like if you enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. Oh, and you can also find me on social media, on Twitter or Instagram, via the username @HITC Sevens, should you wish to do so.